Everyone, my name is Dr. Dolores Tarver. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Georgia, and it is time for the TT Time with Dr. Tarver. It's a wellness-based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. How is it going? I know, still on the whirlwind. We learned that the Pope transitioned, and I again feel like it's just a lot going on. I know a lot of people have been experiencing loss and death in the past couple of months. I just feel like it's one of those times where there's something going on with everyone, whether it is the loss of a loved one or transitions in your life. It might be health issues. It could, of course, as we're in this series talking about job stress, it could be related to your employment, it could be related to your kids. Look, y'all take care of yourselves out there. Make intentional efforts to invest in your wellness during this tough season. We want you to be able to live a long, healthy life and be able to have a purposeful and enjoyable life. So that starts from the inside out, making sure that you're taking good care of you. So go ahead and recommit to maybe some of those things that you stopped doing in this high season of stress, and get back to prioritizing your wellness as you're navigating all of the things that you may have going on in this season. And do understand it is a season, that it will pass. I can't tell you when it's going to pass, but I can tell you that it will. All right. Now that I am off of my Resurrection Sunday, loving on the people mission for today, let's get into it. We have been in this series this month addressing just all of the challenges that we're all navigating with regard to what's going on. I feel like I have said in these unprecedented times every day for 3 months. But it is real. We're dealing with a lot of in particular, stress around our career paths and our employment, and some of us jobs. And so we've been trying to navigate it while we're also here in Georgia. We only have two seasons. We have a winter and we have a summer. We don't have a true fall and we don't have a true spring. So for us, that spring weather we get for like maybe a week or two is quickly gone, 80 degrees already. So that's kind of the space we're in. But now we also can have the seasons all in one day. We are known for that here in Georgia. But that being said, people are really starting to get a little bit more irritated down here because y'all know when it gets hot, we get irritated. So we were talking about all of the factors that are happening in our lives right now around the work stress. And week one, we talked about returning to the office, which people are still making those transitions and making those adjustments. I think a lot of people have settled into a wee bit of a routine, but it just depends on where you are in that cycle at your place of employment. Week two, we talked about the stress associated with potential layoffs and being able to get back in here in this job search, and also to make some good financial decisions. And I believe in the team, so getting that support, making sure you have adequate resources to be able to help you navigate those things. Last week, we got into the impact of layoffs and budget cuts on the people that are still there in the workplace and how that's affecting you because now there's increased demand, and less people to do the work. And also being able to figure out what career wellness might look like for you in this season of your life and ensuring that you have those things in place. I felt like it would be a good segue for this week, a good idea to really talk about self-employment because I think a lot of times self-employment is not addressed as much when we talk about work stress because I think people feel like when you own your own business that you're not stressed. That is so far from reality. And so I do want to take some time, as we're in this last full week of April. You'll get another April segment next week, but we're in this last full week of April, and so I wanted to make sure that I address self employment today. All right, so can we get into it? Thank you so much for that permission. So, as you're thinking about career options, as we've been talking about all of the things from week one to up to now that may be impacting your decision about whether or not you might want to launch that business. That you have been thinking about, kind of been hesitant, fearful about. Now you're thinking it might be a better option for you, just in terms of you being to have more flexibility and you being able to do something that you really have some passion about, and you may have enough resources and capital to be able to do that. Or you may be thinking, I want to do that in addition to working a job because I need additional resources and income coming in. So some people call it a side hustle. Some people call it multiple streams of income. But whatever the name of it, you starting an endeavor that's going to allow you to be able to launch an aspect of self-employment. It could be on a smaller level. It could be on a larger level. Some of you are have been business owners for some time, and you may be recognizing that your business is being impacted by people being laid off, that it's going to affect everybody's business. I tell people all the time, mental health providers, we're not safe from these changes because, again, what are people going to do when they get laid off? They don't have health insurance, they don't have resources. The last thing they're going to be able to afford is mental health counseling, and it just may not feel like as much of a priority as making sure they can afford to pay for housing and food, those basic needs. But also, if you, depending on what your business is, these different things that may be coming in place with regard to potential tariffs. Deportations may have affected you. You may have lost some of your labor pool. Also, rising costs in general, even before we started talking about some of these tariff options that may put a little bit more cost on consumers, but also business owners. And so you might have already been recognizing that your revenue had gone down because you haven't quite compensated for some of these adjustments. And I know people are being so very thoughtful about trying not to pass on every cost to their consumer. My hairstylist, she really struggles to raise her prices on people, but I mean, the prices of your products are going up, and so you can't afford to just keep eating that cost every month. It may cost you more if you don't own own the building that you're practicing or your service is being delivered at, and you're paying rent for that building, or maybe you're on a lease to own kind of contract. Then those costs may be going up as people are charging more for people to use spaces. So you may also be experiencing that. And so as you're kind of just trying to figure out how can I cut my overhead down and keep my costs reasonable and still make a profit, here are some of the things that, as we talk about self-employment stress, that you may be looking at. So I'm going to start with those of you who may be thinking about starting your business. And I tell people you always want to stack your deck. You want to set yourself up for success. And I think that the reason or the reasons I often businesses fail within that first year is because we didn't set ourselves up for success. Now, some things you may not be able to plan for. You purchase a building, inspector says the building is great. You go ahead and you start whatever that business is utilizing this building, and then boom, tornado, hurricane, flood, fire, something that's outside of your control happens, right? But then other times, I feel like we don't have a clear plan and we don't have a clear strategy with regard to not only how we're going to start, but how we're going to maintain and how we're going to adjust with regard to that business. So, some of the things that I see early out the gate is that people do not have a business consultant or a coach whoever is guiding you with regard to that business plan, they do not have a qualified accountant, a certified accountant, a CPA, or a business attorney. And I know you were saying, Tarver, like, do I really need all of that? I will tell you, you can go ahead and pay up front or you can pay later, but you are going to pay. These things, though they're upfront costs, which people don't factor in, and I know so many people that just start their business and they don't do any of these things. They don't get that corporation in place. And so what I have seen happen is people will come back and steal your idea and they'll do all of those things, create the business, and then send you a cease and desist and tell you that you are no longer able to do that. I've seen that happen to so many people because they simply did not take the time to get their corporation set up and their business set up, following the guidelines of the state. Yes, the state is going to get a portion of your proceeds. They're going to get it by virtue of an occupational tax. So, yes, you're going to be paying a tax to operate whatever your business is in an area. Some of you say, well, hey, no problem. I'm an online vendor. You still have to register that business with your state. Here it's the state of Georgia. So, the Secretary of the state of Georgia. So they are going to get their money. So you are letting them know, one, you are a registered business. So whatever type of corporation you have. Some people have LLCs. Some people have S corps, all of those things, which is why you need what? That accountant, to make sure that you're setting up your business appropriately. And that business attorney is going to file all of that necessary paperwork for you and make sure that you are set up with the state in the way that you need to be, because they are going to set your corporation up. They're going to help you with that. Some of you are savvy enough to do it. You have multiple businesses and you're savvy at it, and that's great. But a lot of us are doing Internet 101, Google Docs, and trying to find all of this stuff out. And then we're not setting our things up accurately, and now we're having problems. You're going to have problems with the IRS. You're going to have problems with your state agency with regard to taxes, and you're also going to have problems with whatever city that you're in, because when they come over to check and make sure that you have that business license, when they come over to check and make sure that you're fully registered and you're not only are you going to get fined, but they're going to shut your business down. Again, you can pay up front or you can pay later. I would tell you the costs later are much more expensive than the costs up front. And if you're not certain what all you need, and this is again where that business consultant and coach comes in, meet with somebody. There are a lot of places. Urban League is one of them. Goodwill is another one. These are the places I have in my locale. Some of you may have other agencies available to you that can really help make sure you have a clear business plan and that you have a tax strategy. People don't pay taxes, or they wait until the end of the year when they file to pay taxes. You don't want to do that. I will tell you right now that you do not want to wait until tax season to then pay your taxes. You want to have a strategy in place where you're paying either quarterly or monthly, so you don't get hit with such a hefty tax bill when you have your own business. This is what people don't understand. When you don't have someone paying into your taxes, you are responsible for all of those taxes at right about 40%. And I know y'all are like, well, that's half my money. It is. But you need to understand that. And again, your accountant can help you set your business up so that you can get some of the tax breaks that you're eligible for. But you also need to understand what you're responsible for so you don't get a bill coming along in the mail, and then you're out of compliance, right? Again, these reasons why businesses get shut down within a year. And also businesses their buildings aren't up to code. They don't get the proper licenses. It is difficult in a lot of areas to get a liquor license, for example. And so people will have event spaces are real popular right now. People will have event spaces. They do not have liquor licenses. However, they are allowing things to be done on their property that are not consistent with them not having a liquor license. So every venue, every city has their ordinances around what you can and cannot do with alcohol in spaces where you don't have a liquor license. And so those are the things you may not even know. This is what happens too, is people don't even know what they don't know. And that's why that business coach or that business consultant is going to be able to help you understand that. The other thing that I think that people struggle with is they haven't identified an actual client base. Who are going to be the people who are purchasing your product, utilizing your services? One of the things that takes a while when you're building a business is to create that client base, that customer base, which is why oftentimes you'll have a lot of fluctuation in your income when you're first starting a business, which is why sometimes people will start it part-time before they launch it full-time to go ahead and get it set up, get it built, get some things in place. So they still have some income coming in, because oftentimes people will take out a business loan to launch this business. However, that business loan is not enough to sustain them for that first year while they're building. They're running out of money, not bringing enough money in. You already can see the writing on that wall. And sometimes, in order for you to identify that base, you might need to do some research. You might need to do a survey. What's missing in the area? Who's offering what products? What kind of products are they offering? So, are you offering a better product? Are you offering a cheaper product? Are you offering a service that's not in your area? Are you offering a service that comes with additional things? So, it's not just this service, but you get a whole different type of experience. So you have to figure that out so you can know who to market to. Which, next on the list, your marketing plan. A lot of people don't have a marketing plan. You're not getting your business out there. You don't have objectives and goals that you're trying to meet with regard to your business. So how do you know if your business is growing and progressing if you haven't identified the markers and objectives that you're going to be using to evaluate your growth? And so oftentimes people don't realize they're losing money, or they're stagnant, or their whole client base is built on initially a small subset of people. And then if that small subset of people changes, they stop buying your product, because the thing is, just because a person has bought it one time doesn't mean that they'll be a repeat customer, nor does it mean that they'll be a repeat customer forever. So if you're not growing that base, then you're going to get to a point where you're not going to have anyone utilizing your services or buying your product. And then I think it's also important for us to understand that there is still face to face that has to happen. Even if you're an online business, you still have to make some in person contacts. And so it's important for you, whether that's going to be video, phone, in person. It's important for you to identify who may also be potential referral sources for you to get that clientele that you're looking for. Some of you, that might be influencers on social media. How are you going to get connected with them, and how are you going to get them to promote your product? People get free stuff all the time. That doesn't mean that they're going to actually promote your product. How are you going to ensure that? Do you have contracts in place? So many business owners do not have any kind of contract in place, and you're going on word only. And so that word, if y'all have watched any of those judge shows at any point in your life, that word means absolutely nothing if you don't have anything in writing. And a lot of times people are undervaluing themselves, their work they do, their product. And so you're also putting yourself out there lower than the market rate, which may be a strategy at first, but that's not sustainable. And also what people will do is they'll try to negotiate with you. You have to be able to have some really firm skills regarding what your boundaries are in your business. And a lot of people have malleable boundaries, so it's constantly changing. And then when people realize somebody else got a different rate than they did, then that's a problem. So if you're going to do something like an introductory rate, you need to make sure that's in writing, it's clear, and that there's a clear cutoff, and that's also clear and written. Your disclaimers, whatever information is going to be out there. But also, are there grants? Are there contracts that you can apply for that are in your city, that are in your state, that may also allow you to be able to get that client base? A lot of people are doing transport services, whether they are taking people to appointments or they're transporting goods to other locations for people, taking parts or equipment or machinery. And I know it was everybody wanted to own their own truck. That used to be a big push. I think even when I started Tea Time back during the pandemic, so many people were wanting a dually truck, wanting to get into the trucking business. But what they had not prepared for, one is the cost of you purchasing a truck. Just like you purchase your vehicle, most of us are not paying outright cash for a vehicle. People don't have the capital to pay outright for a truck. So you're making truck payments. The tires on the truck themselves are a whole investment. And you're talking about wear and tear on vehicles and you having to get those tires repaired. Do you have money enough to service that vehicle? That's a whole other cost associated with the truck, plus the insurance on the truck. And then what happens is I am going to get a load. The amount of that load may not even cover the cost of that maintenance, the cost of that payment for that truck. And I may not have enough loads to be able to get enough income in to sustain me. And then people are trying to add on other drivers. You don't have enough money to pay those because, again, you don't have a budget. You don't have that clear plan. You don't have those financials in place. And so oftentimes people are not thinking about how much money after I deduct my expenses will I actually make. That's my true revenue after my overhead is gone. And people aren't calculating that. They're just hearing like, oh, I know this truck driver and he's making, $2,500 a week. Well, that's gone if you got your own truck. So there are a lot of things that you have to kind of think about. That you may have great ideas, but you might have to really fine tune and take a look at the benefits versus the cost when you're thinking about how practical something is. And a lot of times people are thinking big picture, like you see somebody who's been in business and have been able to establish a clientele. Um, uh, Landscaping is another one, lawn care services. People like, oh, okay, I got a lawnmower, got a nice zero turn, I can get out here and cut grass. But you're not thinking about if you have a big contract, somebody gives you a big contract and they have all of this land and landscaping that you're responsible for. When you think about how long it would take you to do that by yourself and you don't have a team, like how much are you actually getting paid per hour? Because it's going to take you that so long to get it done. Is that going to be worth your time? And if you hire people, that cuts into your profits. Again, wear and tear, maintenance on that lawn care equipment. And if you kick up a rock and damage something, you're responsible for that. Do you even have the liability insurance to be able to cover that? Right? Or you don't do it the way they like and they want you to come back and keep coming back. So a lot of these things are what people aren't prepared for when it comes time for their business. And so it's important for you to have an understanding of all of those different dynamics before you launch into something, and particularly before you put a lot of your own financial resources. I've seen people invest every bit of their savings into something that wasn't sustainable, because you have to make sure you have sustainable income while you're building your business. Again, that income is going to fluctuate. And so you may take a year or so to really build that business up. Is there another business with whom you can partner? Are there other organizations that you can join that help build and promote businesses, particularly for new entrepreneurs? And I don't want you to be spending thousands of dollars out here on these tutorials and workshops. Like, be strategic, because I think a lot of times clickbait, we see something, it sounds good on your Instagram or your Facebook, somebody will send it to you and this person is telling you they're a millionaire and you go and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire. That's not how that works, which is why, again, you need to make sure you know how I feel about licensed and credentialed people, but also what is it exactly this person is promoting and what is it exactly that you need. And so making sure that you're going to the right place to be able to get essentially what you need to get your business started. And it may be that you just have an initial conversation first before you start spending all this money. Have an initial conversation with, again, some of those free resources to even think about some of the stuff that you need to put in place. I do think if you're going to work from home, because a lot of people are trying to find ventures that allow them to work from home, because again, that way they'll be able to have another job, make sure that you have a separate workspace. I think a lot of times we are not separated from our business. Some of you out here, all of your goods and services you selling all over your house. They're not contained in a room. They in all the rooms. They in the spare bedrooms. They on the couch. Everywhere you go, you can't separate from your business. That is going to cause you additional stress. You want to make sure that you're able to close that off. to have an intentional cutoff time. For those of you that are cosmetologists and you have a space inside your home or connected to your home, there are a lot of laws and guidelines around. It has to be a separate space with a separate entrance, all of that. So you want to make sure that you do have something where you're able to close that off, that people can't just be rolling up on your property all times of the day and night. That is one good way to get in trouble with your partner, is that people are constantly coming to your house. You may be selling back home. People sell DVDs and CDs still, and putting movies on jump drives and all of this good stuff. And so you got people coming up all times of day or night. Hey, I want this, I want that. Some of you may be selling food, and you may start by selling initially out of your house. People coming up all times of day and night, trying to get your baked goods, trying to get you to throw them a slab of ribs on the grill, right? So you got to have some balance with that. You have to have a schedule. People need to know what your hours are. And folk, the best way that I know to kill your business is to have hours up and you not actually there during those hours. So whatever that schedule is that you say you are going to have, make sure you're able to follow that schedule, that people can get in touch with you with a reliable phone number, with a reliable email. A lot of times things are just going off into oblivion. Nobody's actually checking that. You don't even know where that email goes. You don't know that's a Google number. You haven't checked that Google number, and they done closed the Google account. You don't even realize you don't have the number anymore. So you want to make sure that you also have a realistic schedule, ways that people can connect with you, can communicate with you, and that you are attentive to people when they reach out. And be a person of your word. Some of you are doing service, you're not doing a good job at that service, and then a person comes back and they say, hey, this isn't what I asked for. You might have been tired, it might have been an off night, you might have had way too much you took on, because that balance again is very important. And so somebody's, didn't get your best care, work, time, effort, and energy. Be a person of your word and honor that. That is going to, when it is, people are going to be frustrated when you make mistakes. Mistakes happen, but own your mistake and make it right. That is another way to kill your business, by holding someone else responsible for something that you know you didn't take the adequate care to ensure it was right. So make sure that you're also a person who is reliable, a person who is trustworthy. That word of mouth is very serious, and you can instantly be blackballed because you did not provide quality service. Because now all the person has to do is take a picture of it, record you. You didn't even know you were being recorded. And now that's all over the internet, and your sales have dropped. Also, make sure that you got some business support. Sometimes we're operating in a vacuum, and this is where mistakes can happen. When you don't have some people to consult with, to bounce things off with, to talk about those difficult folks, because sometimes people can be very demanding. They want you to give them a lot for less. So how to navigate that, you want to be able to have other folks to help with that. That means you're not isolated, and you're not at increased risk to either be taken advantage of or to not make a good decision because you were responding out of frustration. That balance and the self-care is important, making sure you're taking good care of you, and ensuring that you're setting yourself up to not be in an environment where we are now, right? So this constant threat looming of, am I going to stay open? I'm not going to stay open. Oh, I got to take on this person even though they're really just rude, but I need the business, right? So you don't want to put yourself in that situation. So this balance is really important. Whatever the boundary is, you maintain the boundary. If it's certain clients you're not going to deal with, when it's a no, it's a no, even if you need that money. Seasoned saints will tell y'all, all money is not good money. So making sure that you're honoring your values, even if it may mean that you're turning down something. You know, some folks out here nefarious doing some things that you don't agree with, and you know that it doesn't align with what you believe in. Don't compromise your values for a buck. Now, the other thing about your own business is often it doesn't come with retirement insurance and savings. right? So you don't get the employer benefits, you don't get the leave, the paid leave time. What people who work for themselves often do is that they are usually overworked. um, and because it's your business, then you are putting more into it, and people are putting 60, 80 hours into their own business because it's their own business. And some of you have grown, but you're still operating your business like you just started, and you're not hiring people because you're worried about being able to have an employee on salary. So again, that's why you have those financial people. That's why you got that team to look at your revenue, look at your productivity, so they can be able to say, not only can you afford someone, but you actually needed two people probably 2 years ago. That's why you're stressed out right now, and you don't get a chance to go on vacation and do anything with your family. Um, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting that feedback so you can know when it's time to expand. However, people don't realize that you have got to have a after I stop working plan. And a lot of business owners do not have a retirement plan. You can go with you can any there's a lot of different companies out there. You do not have to be tied to a state, a federal, an office in order for you to have a retirement plan. You just have to court the different vendors out, see what the options are. And I will tell you, a lot of people wait to get a retirement plan when they're like 65, 70 years old. Your premiums are going to be much higher for anything you're waiting to do. Right now, because I don't have retirement, anything in retirement, now I got to be aggressive out here with my retirement plan because I didn't invest. So start early. In your 20s, you need to start your retirement plan because you don't need to be trying to work till you're 70, 80, 90 years old. Also, your health insurance. Self employed people need to have health insurance, and a lot of times they're skimping on the health insurance. Some of you may be married and your spouse may have health insurance and you're on their plan, and that's great. But some of you don't have that as an option. So you need to, yes, in the market rate insurance, not ideal. However, you not having insurance, well, right now it's against the law, but also you not having insurance means that if anything happens to you, you're paying out of pocket. And remember, we talked about prevention is always going to be better than intervention. So we want you in that preventative care. We want you getting those yearly appointments or those every 6 month appointments or every 10 year, whatever it is. You need to make sure you're doing that because that's going to stop you from having issues later on that you're going to be paying more copays and more out of pocket expenses for. Also, savings. A lot of business owners don't have a savings account. You want to make sure, because you don't have paid leave, remember, you don't have that benefit. You don't have the capacity to be able to borrow leave and get that sick leave in and still get paid. So that means you have to create your own pot of money to be able to carry you when you want to take that vacation. If you get sick, God forbid, you need to take some time off to enjoy your kids' graduations, to be able to have date nights with your partner, right? So you want to make sure that you don't have to work in order for you to just live. So you want to create that savings. You want to have that pot of security for yourself. And it takes time to build. But again, you want to have, and that's where that financial planner comes in. You know, I'm a send it back every time to making sure you have the right team in place who is going to allow you to be able to have the resources you need to keep your business going, to have so many months of salary put away for yourself, for your employees, if you have employees. You don't ever want to be balanced, yeah, well, living check to check or balancing right at the very end of the month, like, oh, we barely made it. That's not what you want. You want to have that cushion. And also, that team may be able to help you get the insurance and the retirement set up for yourself. It's always going to be a good idea to keep your expenses low. I think a lot of times we are spending all this money for people who say they can have your website be the first one that comes up in the searches and these photo shoots and all of that. You don't need all of that to get going. You need a marketing plan that's reasonable. You need to do some research on your client base. That's a reasonable expense that you're paying up front. Getting these things set up, those are all good investments. But some of these things, these lavish things you're doing out here, getting your emblem put on all them water bottles and all them fans and all those frisbees, we don't need that. So make sure that you're utilizing your resources well and you're not overly expending, that you don't have to get the best building on the block, that you find something that's safe and a good price. You always want to be good stewards of your money. I will tell you that being a business owner is frustrating at times and stressful at times. And so sometimes you're going to struggle with your motivation. And so often, what happens when we're not as motivated is we start kind of fading off, not doing as much, not being as productive. One, if you take those breaks in there, you get those vacations, schedule those breaks, take that time away, have that set time where you're cutting off and you're not constantly working all the time. That's going to allow you to be able to bounce back faster. And so you're not going to be as prone to the depression and the anxiety and the self defeat when things happen, because things are going to happen. Things you didn't plan for, unexpected challenges that'll happen, and that'll make you think like, never mind, I don't even want to do this. Pack it up. Um, but if you have the right people in place, they'll be able to help guide you through those challenging times. Be just a good steward of your time and your wellness. Don't take on too many things. We have time blindness when it comes to being business owners. You always think you can do, like, oh, yeah, I can schedule all these things. Why would you do that to yourself? You're going to be dog tired. By the time you get to that last thing, you're not going to have any energy left. So just make sure that you are not overextending. I know y'all say in the military, over promising and under delivering, and this is how we end up getting in problems because we have just overextended ourselves. And you're doing too many things. There is nothing wrong with you being a business owner. You want to volunteer and give some time back, but again, there has to be some balance with that. You can't serve on everything. You have to choose one or two things that you're going to do and that you're going to do well. Now, if you have a team, you can dispatch people to do different things. But also being very mindful, there are always going to be people that are going to ask you to donate, that are going to sponsor. You want to be strategic in terms of that too, as well as what you're going to donate and sponsor. And also making sure that you're aware of any kind of tax breaks and benefits you can get, excuse me, from your sponsorship. If you are a business owner that has grown to the capacity of being able to have your own employees, think about what it's like for you to be on the other side of that. Offer your employees competitive benefits. Sometimes you're not going to be able to offer everything. A lot of places aren't able to offer insurance, especially when they're smaller business, because when you're a small business, does insurance is options are limited and they're very expensive. More people, less costs. So you may not be able to offer those insurance benefits, but you may be able to offer more of a competitive wage. You may be able to offer flexibility in terms of their hours. You may be able to offer transportation to work. So just kind of think about how you can set yourself up to make sure that you are getting good employees, because that's another challenge, is that finding a good applicant pool, but also being able to understand the dynamics of having personnel and how to navigate all of the challenges that come along with having personnel. Those are now an extension of you, the people that work for you. And so making sure you're bringing the right people in. I think sometimes we just trying to get some bodies in there, and we're trying to get those bodies in there, and they are not the right body for the job. You all have been there, not good customer service. People come in there and you're like, I will never utilize that company again. And particularly, you have to be thoughtful about how folks are presenting themselves when they are working for you. If they have a negative attitude, if they are we say about the young folks, sometimes they don't have any sense of urgency about them. And so they're appearing lazy and disengaged and uninterested and unmotivated. That is not going to sell your product or want people to utilize your service. And also, like, if you're providing transport, or person is coming in for a service, you don't want them to have an odor to them when they're coming in. You don't want them to be inappropriate with your customer. Like, that's not an opportunity for you to find somebody to date. And so, being personal and so there's a lot of different dynamics. So you want to make sure, and a lot of small business owners do not have an employee manual, and they also don't have things written down. So when there's occurrences, you have to have a written process outlined, or people can come back and later sue you because you terminated them, but you didn't have anything in place to document what you did as an intervention, or hey, this is immediate. termination of you don't have that in place. So anybody can come and say, well, no, that's not, we didn't have an employee manual. I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to do that. So set yourself up for success. And again, these are all of the things that that team will help you get set up. I don't care how small your business is, it can be a N of one. You need to have some policies and procedures that you're following, and they need to be documented in your values, and your job descriptions. All of those things are important for you to have for yourself as well as for any employees you may take on. Being a business owner is not for the faint at heart. However, I will say it can be very rewarding and it can be very beneficial once you figure out the challenges that interfere with people being able to be successful, get your right team in place, ensure that you've got good balance, that you're being a good steward of all your resources, your time, your finances, how you're extending yourself in terms of the service that you're offering, and that you have some things in place to monitor whether or not there need to be changes, because there's always going to need to be changes. You shouldn't be doing the same thing for 10, 15, 20 years, because we grow, we learn, different things come out. And so there should be some adjustments. So having some things in place to evaluate your processes and procedures and when they need to be updated, and managing those personnel challenges, that marketing is very important, your base clientele, then you most certainly can be successful with less stress. I'm not going to tell you have no stress, but I can tell you you can have less stress, and take some good vacations. All right, you all be well and launch those businesses.